Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Rails Board meeting. I am Renee Leyva, President of the Rails Board. I hereby call this meeting to order on Friday, August 23rd at 1 o'clock. Emily,
September 27th.
I have no comment. All right. September 27th, good old days. At 1 o'clock. Emily, could you please call roll?
Monica Caldecott.
Here.
Jean Carroll.
Here.
Jennifer Cutchell.
Here.
Anupam Goyal.
Here.
Juan Gregory.
Here.
Diane Hollister.
Here.
Jennifer Hovanek.
Here.
Amanda Kowalski.
Here.
Renee Leyva.
Here.
Julie Milivek.
Here.
Emily Porter. Alex Vancina.
Here.
Vanessa Villarreal. Karen Voidick.
Here.
Catherine Yanikowski.
Here.
Thank you, Emily. Next item is the recognition of guests and announcements. First, I would like to thank the Bloomington Public Library for their hospitality and for hosting this meeting, especially Van Corlitz and Jean Hamilton. We had a great tour of this newly renovated library. It is beautiful, so congratulations. Yes. We all know the time and effort and work that goes into construction projects. Let's continue by recognizing the guests here at Bloomington.
Monica Harris, Rails.
Mark Hatch, Rails.
Wesley Smith, Rails.
Jessica Silva, Rails. Oh, Cindy Robinson, ILA.
Emily Feister Rails.
Joe Philippek, Rails.
Dan Bostrom, Rails.
Laura Keys, Dunlap Public Library District. Amy Harris, Albemarle Public Library District. Becca Seaborn, Carbondale Library District. Casey Palmisano, Rails. Mary Kate Murray, Rails.
Okay, now to the guests in Burr Ridge.
Sharon Swanson, Rails.
Riley Martin, Lauterbach and Amon.
Pam Slaughter, Rails.
Colin India, Rails.
Emily, could you please read the names of the guests attending via Zoom?
Sure. We have Sam Daly and Kate Niehoff, both with Rails. And we have Mandy Saya from the Illinois State Library.
And then are there any other announcements at this time? Exciting, all right. Thank you. We'll now move on to public comments. Are there any public comments for those present here in Bloomington? Okay, are there any public comments from those present in Burr Ridge through Zoom or via email?
Received.
Thank you. We will proceed to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the following items: adoption of the agenda, the Rails Board minutes of August 24th, 2024 regular meeting, the approval of disbursements August 2024 with Sharon Swanson. One change to the agenda, the addition of number 11, board member reports. Does anyone wish to move any item from the consent agenda to the regular agenda for further discussion? There are no other changes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved, Julie Milivek.
Second, Karen Voidick.
Emily, please call roll.
Monica Caldecott.
Yes.
Jean Carroll.
Yes.
Jennifer Cutchell.
Yes.
Anupam Goyal.
Yes.
Juan Gregory.
Yes.
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek. Amanda Kowalski.
Yes.
Renee Leyva.
Yes.
Julie Milivek.
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Karen Voidick.
Yes.
And Catherine Yanikowski.
Yes.
Thank you, Emily. Next, we have Sharon Swanson with the annual audit.
Hey, Renee, we have completed the 13th annual financial audit of Rails. You were provided with the PDF copies of the annual financial audit, the single audit, the management letter, and the statement on auditing standards number 114 letter. If anyone wants a printed copy of either of the audits and the management letter, I know Emily has them in Bloomington and I have a stack here in Burr Ridge. Just see either one of us. Everything went well as always, and we have a clean opinion. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank Riley, our auditor, as well as the entire team at Lauterbach and Amen for all of their hard work on the audit. And this annual project that comes up every year. And I'd like to introduce at this time Riley Martin, our audit supervisor at Lauterbach and Amen, the point person who oversaw our audit. Riley will deliver the report of our fiscal year 2024 audit, and there will be a time afterwards for you all to ask any questions that you may have of him or myself. So I did want to note that we're asking for your acceptance of this report versus your approval in order to avoid giving the impression that Lauterbach and Amen is under our direct supervision. It is a little bit different from the rest of the items that are normally on your agenda. So at this time, I will give it over to Riley for his report.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharon. Well, thank you for letting me be here to present in front of you all today in person, and I hope that everyone in Bloomington can hear me okay. I'm happy to be here to present today the financial results of the annual financial report for the year ended June 30th, 2024. I'll keep it brief here, so we'll go through the 4 different deliverables here. I first want to say a huge thank you to Sharon and the rest of the team here at Rails who made the audit process super clean. We do this every single year, and I know that we've been always hitting that 9:30 deadline, or I think it's usually 9:27, 9:20 to get everything submitted to the Illinois State Library. So their team makes it super easy for us to get our job done timely and efficiently and effectively. So we couldn't do our job without you and your team. So we definitely appreciate your help throughout the rest of the audit, or throughout the course of the audit. That being said, let's jump right into our first of 4 documents. The first document that I kind of want to talk through today is our Statements on Auditing Standards letter. That one, if you're looking at it virtually in Bloomington, it is not the one with the pretty cover on it. That is just the regular 3-page document and whatnot. The few things that I want to touch on here that is covered in this document, it covers our responsibility as the auditor's responsibility of management for compiling the financial statements. And then there's just 2 things that I did want to touch on, whether or not we had any disagreements or difficulties with management. Of course, there were none this year. I don't think there ever has been. Sharon and company are great to work with, and never pose any problems, and are always quick to get us answers when we need them, or fulfilling requests when we have stuff that comes up. So thank you again. The second of 4 documents that I want to present to you today is the pretty covered version of the annual financial report with the Rails logo on the front. I'm not going to go too in depth of every single page and break this down, but I'll kind of keep it pretty high level and go through what's the most important things to look at as we're going through this document here. So the first page I'll have you turn your attention to is page 1 of the document. Page 1 covers our independent auditor's report. That encompasses some more of our responsibilities as the auditor and management's responsibility with the financial statements. The biggest thing that I want to kind of turn your attention to, and I think Sharon even alluded to it before I started presenting, was the second paragraph under the opinion section. I'll paraphrase a little bit, but in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects as of June 30th, 2024. As Sharon mentioned, that's an unmodified, clean opinion. That's the cleanest form of opinion you can have in Illinois government and Illinois auditing, or government auditing. So that means that we did not detect any financial statement errors or omissions that could make the financial statements, misleading or, materially incorrect. We also do assess the internal control structure here at Rails. You'll notice in here, it does not specifically say we issue an opinion on the internal control environment, but we do internal control procedures, and there was nothing that we've identified that would cause us to believe that things are not working as they should be. It's a pretty smooth sailing ship here at Rails. So the next thing I'll turn your attention to is pages 4 through 13. Page 4 starts the management's discussion and analysis section. If you do not want to read through the rest of the financial statements, this is the best place to go. This covers in pretty detailed level a lot of the stuff that's covered in the back of the report. It's just in more explanatory paragraphs and some helpful charts and some graphs and whatnot. So if there's one thing I'd really kind of urge you to read as your Friday night reading before you go to bed, maybe, I don't know, is these kind of 8 or 9 pages. That's going to give you a pretty good summary of what's covered in the rest of the report. The next page we'll jump to is page 19. Page 19 breaks down Rails' balance sheet for all of their governmental funds. So there's 2. We have our general fund and our capital projects fund. So we're just showing our total assets, our liabilities, and then our ending fund balance at the end of the year. I think the more important document that is in this, the next page over on page 21, is the statement of revenues, expenditure, balance. In, simple terms, it's just your income statement. We're looking at all the revenue that was, received during the course of the year and comparing it to any of our expenditures. And you can see that we had an overall positive change in our fund balance for our general fund of just over $1.75 million, and a decrease to our capital projects fund throughout the year, which, as we're expecting, if you have capital outlays that we're expecting to incur, that fund really shouldn't be continuing to grow a large balance. It should be pretty well monitored, which it is. So that's, nothing that was out of the ordinary for us this year. All righty, that is all I have for the annual financial report. Since Rails also receives, since their funding is coming through the Illinois State Library, there are a portion of federal funds that come through the area and per capita library grant. And that being said, with those federal funds exceeding $750,000, we are required to submit additional internal control and compliance testing and examination procedures. So that's what's being covered here in this single audit report. It's a lot more in terms of looking at internal control and compliance than it is actually making sure that financial statements are materially correct. But the things I did want to share on in that report were that there were no findings this year, and that everything that we were, examining and testing gave us no issues, and we were able to issue this report with a clean opinion, just like we did for our annual financial report. And last but not least, document 404 is the management letter comments document. I do want to preface that in the management letter comments document, it's not like a slap on the wrist. We do a lot of government clients, whether they're public library districts, whether they're park districts, municipalities, villages, cities, so on and so forth, everything under the government sun pretty much. And so with our expertise and our experience in government, a lot of these are GASB pronouncements that we are required to abide by. So a lot of what's being covered in here, I think it's 100% of what's being covered in here. Yep, it sure is. 100% of what's being covered in here is all GASB pronouncements. So these are things that they release every year, every 6 months. Who really knows? They let them out, I feel like, all the time. They're always kind of keeping us on our toes and making sure that we're abiding by the announcements that are coming out. But the two that were included this year, the one that was included this year is GASB statement number 102 related to certain risk disclosures. As you can see there, that is not applicable until next year, June 30th, 2025's fiscal year end, or I guess the current year we're in now, technically. But there is continuing, training and education that's coming out from GASB. And I know that when it comes time for this time next year, we're doing our audit. If anything's applicable to Rails, we'll make sure that we are working with Sharon and company to make sure that anything that needs to be included in the report is being picked up and documented appropriately. That is all I have to present on today. With that being said, I want to thank everyone here in person for allowing me to come and present. And then everyone in Bloomington, thank you for listening to my presentation today. And I will now open up for questions if there are any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Riley. I personally have a leaders retreat this weekend, so I now have some reading material to look over, so I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anything I can do to help. Yep.
If there are no further questions or comments, we can proceed. May I have a motion and a second for the acceptance of the audit report for fiscal year 2024?
So moved, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Second, Amanda Kowalski.
Thanks, Amanda. Emily, will you please call roll?
Jean Carroll.
Yes.
Jennifer Cutzall.
Yes.
Anupam Goyal.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Jennifer Hovanek.
Yes.
Amanda Kowalski.
Yes.
Julie Millivek.
Yes.
Emily Porter.
Yes.
Alex Vancina.
Yes.
Karen Voitic, sorry, Karen.
Yes.
Catherine Hanikowski.
Yes.
And Renee Leva.
Yes. All right, next, we again have Sharon Swanson with the financial report. Sharon, you have the floor.
I think one was missed for roll call.
I also say yes, Monica.
Oh, sorry, Monica.
That's okay.
Okay, Renee, thank you so much. You will all find the financial reports for the month of August in your packet. The August 31st general fund unassigned cash and investment balance of approximately 22.8 million would fund approximately 19.3 million. 19.3 months of budgeted fiscal year 2025 operations. This coverage has declined since this last month, mostly due to not having yet received any area per capita grant payments so far this fiscal year. So last year, Rails had received the first payment, which was the big payment from the state's general fund in the amount of approximately 9.9 million sometime late in November. So I'm hoping for that same timing. So you'll see a decline in that balance until that point in time, and we'll get a huge bump and then a gradual decline throughout the year again. General fund revenues through August of a little over 2.18 million were approximately $742,000 below budget. This was primarily due to the EBSCO group purchase that I discussed at this last month. So EBSCO was chosen as the vendor for the statewide database program, and Rails is offering new databases and packages that complement the state's database program. It's at a lower cost than we had budgeted, but these are completely offset by expenditures down below, so they don't affect our bottom line. The revision also affecting this above budget revenue number is the revision in the LSAP support grant for that open RSA position that was eliminated. It resulted in lower payments from RSA for the fiscal year, resulting in lower fees for services and materials revenue for us. These were partially offset by above budget investment income revenues. So we had budgeted investment income at a blended rate of 4.25%. But interest rates are currently running at an average of 5% as of mid-September. Interest rates have begun to decline, as I'm sure you've all heard, due to the Federal Reserve's interest rate cut that they implemented this last week. So it's 0.5 percentage point. It's the most aggressive cut since the 2008 recession. And this is happening because inflation has shown such sustained improvements. We haven't had a cut since 2020. So we've been at this high level since 2020, and it increased up until this past July, pretty much. So there's another 0.5 percentage point cut that is expected before the end of the calendar year, because the Federal Reserve feels so confident in how the economy is heading. And additional cuts totaling 1 percentage point are expected during the next calendar year. So depending on how aggressive the Federal Reserve's actions are, given inflation, Rails could end the year very close to what we had budgeted. So just FYI for folks, general fund expenditures through August were a little over 3.25 million, and these were nearly 1.17 million below budget due to, as I mentioned this last month and mentioned above, below budget library materials expenditures. This was the EBSCO group purchase, that offsetting amount, as well as timing differences between budget and actual renewals for several other smaller group purchases. We had also below budget contractual services expenditures from just the normal week's delay in receiving and paying our delivery outsourcing vendor, as well as lower than anticipated fuel surcharges because we had budgeted $4.25 per gallon. Thank goodness, we have been consistently below that. So we're getting charged less from them and we're incurring fewer expenses ourselves. In addition, Rails vehicle expenditures were below budget, as I mentioned, the fuel prices and the normal month's delay in receiving and paying our invoice from our fuel card vendor. And finally, less of a need for repairs and maintenance for our vehicles because we are replacing them now. And we've replaced a significant portion now. So this is almost the first time that we've seen this happen in pretty much a year and a half. So we are very thankful. In addition, other vehicle expenditures are below budget because we've waited to brand these new vehicles until we get the entire group to save on cost, basically. Rails also had below budget professional services expenditures from timing differences between budget and actual expenditures for various planned consulting projects during the year, including succession planning, world language cataloging, translation services, a website accessibility audit that we're planning, as well as HR source memberships for libraries that are partially subsidized by Rails. We also did not begin to receive progress billing for the audit until September. So we are below budget in that line item. And we had less of a need for legal services through August, but I'm anticipating that picking up. So on another note, as a couple of you have pointed out and have asked me already, we did pay a significant number of backdated invoices for Konica Minolta. So we do have a select few printers, in addition to the high capacity printers that we have throughout our various Rails locations. These are for jobs that need to be segregated from other jobs for various reasons, such as my check printer, because I use special magnetic ink. And just for internal control reasons. So we're only billed for usage for these printers because we own them. So these printers were added to the old contract that we have with Konica after the initial agreement was signed. So because they were added on at best during normal circumstances, those usage billings were lagging behind considerably. So when our contract ended this last year, Konica did not discover or follow up on the fact that we owed usage for all of these months until they recently reviewed their records. So we are dealing with a significant backlog and working through that. We're continuing to work through that now, probably through October, actually. And we will end the year slightly over budget in the equipment rental expenditure line due to this backlog, but we're not being charged interest, late fees. We're not being penalized in any way because they realize that it's their mistake, basically. So I did just want to make everyone aware in case you see groups of 12 or 24 invoices in our check register. And I'm happy to report that during August, Rails received and paid $61,264 for the 12th of the total 13 vehicles that we had purchased in fiscal year 2024. And since the end of August, Rails has received and paid for 6 of the 8 vehicles that were budgeted to be purchased in 2025. So we only have 3 left, hopefully soon, and we will be between a third and half replaced. And Mark can correct me on that if I'm wrong, because I know he's in the audience at Bloomington. So that was pretty much all that I had for you this month. Are there any questions?
I just have a comment to Sharon about the lower than budgeted EBSCO group purchase. And I'll use the terminology of my high school students, same. Because when I happily told my principal that the Illinois State Library was going to be granting us free access to databases, I was thrilled, and he promptly cut $5,000 off of my database budget. So, same deal. So I do understand that less than budgeted means nothing to Rails. It's not as if we have less income coming in. It was just a pass through anyway. But this situation that Rails finds itself in felt very similar to me.
I'm sorry to hear that your budget got cut.
I know. Yeah. I could have used it elsewhere.
I can imagine.
All right, thank you, Sharon. I'm sorry, Monica. I don't know what to say after that.
Thank you. I know we can all commiserate that situation.
Although I do hope we can send out a flyer with the words below budget in all of our delivery bins. That would be great. Don't do it, Dan, but I think that would be great. Thank you again for the detailed reports. It's only September, but we've been getting a lot done, so that's always good. If there are no further questions or comments, we can proceed to the next item on the agenda. That is reports. I don't have a Rails president report at this time. Your packet does include all the committee reports. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding their contents?
I would just like to say thank you so much to all of my fellow board members who joined us at the Rails Advocacy Committee meeting on September 19th. It was really such a great turnout. Our committee has grown by 2 and even more. And I really felt the vibrancy of everyone's interest and participation and good ideas. So thank you so much.
I was also there present, and it was really nice to see so many people committed. It almost reminded me of the ILA orientation day where you have like 60 faces. It's really nice, a lot of committed individuals. If there are no further questions or comments, let's move on to another Monica. with the Rails monthly report. Monica, you have 4.
Thank you, Renee. Good afternoon, all. I wanted to extend our thanks, as Renee did, to being here at the Bloomington Public Library, and thanks to all the guests who have joined us for the meeting today as well. In addition to what you received in the Rails report that was in your packet, I just wanted to share a couple of additional pieces that have happened recently. One is related to the treasurer's bond legislation that all of you may remember was passed back in June and then signed into law for July 1st. We have been receiving some questions from libraries who are unsure of what this means to them. So we asked Ansel Glink to draft a memo that just explained a little bit about the change in law and what libraries should do as they're looking at their insurance renewals. We did share that memo with the directors list on Wednesday, and we'll be sharing more with them with the rest of the membership through the e-news and in other spaces. But I did want to thank Ansel Glink for that additional information, and hopefully that it results in some significant financial savings for public libraries. I also wanted to share the ISLAC meeting, which is the Illinois State Libraries Advisory Council meeting, happened yesterday in Springfield. I was in attendance, and it was a really good meeting. There was a lot of great information that was discussed. There was a long discussion on grant equity, and that is grants related to technology, construction, the per capita grant, really talking about more. I'll leave some of that in case the state library wants to share more, but I really appreciated the discussion from all who were involved. There was also an update from eResources for the database package. In particular, there was some discussion around wondering how much libraries are saving. So Monica, your comment was really interesting, just in terms of what is happening with that money or how much individually libraries are saving. And so we'll be thinking more about how we can gather more information from Rails member libraries on how this package is really what's going on in your libraries with these changes. How is that money being used? What are you doing with it? And so we'll be talking more about that. There was also an update, including an invitation to submit an application to formally join the committee. As many of you know, I've been attending ISLAC, but have not been a voting member as they worked on a process for that. So I have now received an invitation to join, so I'm really pleased, and hopefully that will be available by the next meeting. They are also beginning 2 subcommittees that have been requested since the beginning, one that's focused on universal service and one that's on diversity. I know we've talked quite a bit in our own universal service committee about the beginning of this subcommittee coming from the state library. And so we're really looking forward to what happens through that and being able to share, the work that the Rails committee has done on this issue, along with what we can do as a state. I think it's really exciting. I did want to share, just to highlight a couple of things that are in your packet, including some really exciting news. Ann Slaughter, who's there in Burr Ridge, was named the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities Broadband Advisory Council Chair. This is a really big honor, and especially a big honor because it's a person who understands libraries and understands the importance of libraries as community anchor institutions. So I just wanted to congratulate Ann, but also make sure you were all aware, because this is a really big thing. I also just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. We talked last month about our EDI board committee, some of the issues that we have had with quorum and looking at that committee going forward. We are very interested in continuing the work that was begun by that committee. There's been a lot of really important discussions and great leadership from Diane Hollister. We think we're ready to transition that committee into a new form, but we want to get it right, and we want to know exactly what that should look like. And I think what that's going to involve is some more conversations with some of the folks who have served on that committee. If in an ideal world, what would this look like? What would the work of this group look like? So we will be having those conversations and share more about how that committee will continue to move forward, not as a board committee, but as another type. I also wanted to highlight, I know, sorry, we had a message out there. Was there somebody needed to know something? Okay, sorry about that. Many of you received an email about the Agencies of Impact report being featured on WBEZ Public Radio. It's a really exciting opportunity to be able to talk about what economic opportunity for Illinois libraries is and what a wonderful return on investment they are for their communities. Not only did that appear in WBEZ, but as Diane pointed out, it appeared in other public radio markets throughout the state. Yes, in Bloomington Normal, it also appeared. So we are thrilled to see that getting some great information. We also shared that at the ISLAC meeting yesterday, and there was a lot of excitement about sharing this with their other groups. So we'll continue to see that roll out, and I'm hopeful that this will continue to be a great way for people to talk about their libraries with their community funders and supporters. That is pretty much what I have to share, but if anyone has any questions, anything that appeared in the report that you'd like to comment on or question on, now is the time.
All right, thank you, Monica. Now we'll hear from Mark Hatch with the Rails delivery overview. Mark?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Hatch, and I am the Facilities and Delivery Director for Rails. I've been here close to 13 years. Since I have two hats, we'll start off with the facilities summary. So this is something that we create each year just to give the board an understanding of the facilities that we have. Off to the left, those are the locations where our facilities are in Bolingbrook, Burr Ridge, Cove Valley, East Peoria, and Rockford. Just for reference, we own two of the buildings, the Cove Valley property and then also the Burr Ridge property. Those are the ones that we own. A couple of things I just wanted to point out here, were the lease expiration dates, the amount of money that we pay for our monthly rent, and then our operating costs. And then lastly, the comment section goes into the square footage at each one of the facilities. So we usually do this each year just so that the board has an understanding, what our expenses are related to the operation and so forth and so on. So great. Now, part of delivery. We're a hybrid system, which means we have an in-house and outsourced deliveries. I'll talk more about the outsourced deliveries shortly. I believe it's a very simple process. I'm a big fan of standardization, primarily because of the fact that the simpler things operate, more efficient they are, and so forth and so on. So user-friendly, efficient, and then statewide focus. We do a lot of collaborating with our sister company, the Heartland Library System, the State Library, Carly. If we can collaborate, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. So that's why we do meet quite a bit with those groups. These are our hubs. As I've mentioned, we also use a outsourcing organization called Continental Transport Logistics. They're located in North Lake, Illinois. They service the Legacy, Burr Ridge, and Wheeling service areas. They do 131 of our libraries. Their service is a little different than ours. They actually service their locations after hours, after the library is closed, whereas the material is waiting for the library staff to arrive in the morning. So it's a great service. The libraries really love it. And then off to the right are the Rails in-house locations. As I mentioned earlier, those are the 4 locations where our hubs are located. We service 565 libraries. Out of these 4 hubs, we provide our service during the normal business hours. And if you notice on each one of the boxes there or the oblongs there, those are the LSAPs that's associated with each one of those service centers. If you notice, Prairie Cat is out there 3 times because they have an extremely huge service area. So that's why they're serviced out of 3 of our service centers. User-friendly. If we start off with the predetermined routes, our libraries all have a schedule. They all have a schedule in which they know where the time and the day in which they're going to receive delivery. And we do that delivery with 47 different vehicles. We have 47 vehicles in our trucks that we have in our fleet throughout the operation. Also, if we have a problem, we have email notifications that are sent out. We have a route email string. For every library on that route, they're assigned a route email string. So God forbid if a route is delayed or something of that nature, all we need to do is utilize that route email string, and it's sent directly to all the libraries, letting them know that the delivery is going to be delayed, 15 minutes, an hour, and so forth and so on. or we use it to just communicate with other things that are going on within the delivery department. Also, as far as the delivery help desk, very, very easy, very, very simple. It's just as simple as sending an email to railsdelivery@railslibrary.org. Once that email is received within our system, it's automatically routed to the appropriate service center for that manager to address the issue. So these are the things that I think make it very, very user-friendly, for our libraries, for our members. Efficient routing, we use our own internal routing software, to create our routes. And then we actually have them vetted by GeoMark. GeoMark is our logistics expert at the Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, is where they're located. And that's a great organization. We've been utilizing them for years. They've done a lot of work for us, and they've saved us a lot of money by building in additional efficiencies within the operation. We also utilize CDPs, or community delivery partnerships. That is one of the things that I really, really like. That is where a host library receives delivery for a smaller library. A host library most likely is receiving delivery 5 days a week. A host or participating library may only receive delivery 1 or 2 days a week. So by them partnering together, they're now entitled to receive delivery 5 days a week, just like the host library. So it's a great program. We've got 153 host libraries for 247 libraries. So it's a great program, and it also takes stops off the street for me, which I gain additional efficiency. So that's a great program. So I really like that. Also, the delivery on demand, or van on demand, as we call it, VOD, that is where a location, we don't physically go there unless they have something to send out or we have something to deliver. Additional efficiency, because of the fact that I don't have to go there and do what we used to call airdrops, where you're not picking up anything or delivering anything, so it makes a lot of sense for us to have libraries on van on demand, and primarily. Oh, sorry.
Great. Well, join us in the room, no registration required.
Okay, you're welcome. So it really helps us from our efficiency standpoint, also from a financial standpoint, because that's less stops that I actually have to perform, And then also, we actually create our routes by the volume of the library. That is how you actually determine what your frequency is. It's based off of your volume. For example, if there's a library that receives 60 to 129 items within a week, you're entitled to 3 days a week delivery. What we have to do is we have to then say, well, what are the best 3 days for us to make those deliveries? So traditionally, we look at our existing routing and then, so where does this fit within the route? Where does this fit within the route? So that's actually how we actually, create that. The chart for this is on our delivery webpage. So a library could actually just go to the delivery webpage and actually see what they're entitled to by their volume. So we try to standardize as much stuff as possible, within the operation. So those things really, really come in handy. And a lot of libraries know, and we just actually worked with a library who says my volume has gone up and it's been up consistently. They're entitled to 4 days a week delivery now. And we went back and we did our analysis. You're 100% correct. You are entitled to 4 days a week delivery now. So something that I think is extremely great within the delivery operation is our delivery label. It is a basic label. This label is to move an item from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. So there's 4 things on this label that I want to point out. There's only 4.5 things on the label, so it's not, is the 2, which is the destination, the 4, which is the for like a CDP participant, So if I'm John Doe Host Library, I'm receiving the delivery for Jane Doe Elementary School. So Jane Doe Elementary School would be in the 4 field. The from naturally is the sending library. And then this is something that, from some of our focus group meetings and things like that, this was a request that we added to this label. at the bottom where it says circle one, hold or return. What that is asked, what that's actually saying is, when the Cindy library is sending that back and they're sending it to replace a hold, they will circle hold. So when it gets to the destination library, they can focus on those first and worry about the returns later, because that way, the sooner they can get it into the patron's hand, the better. So that's something that, you know, from the focus group meetings that we had, that was one of the things that was definitely brought up, and we thought that was a great idea. By the way, we order 5 million of those labels a year because it's free of charge to the library. So that's another benefit, you know, that we actually provide. This is an IODS label. This is, you know, academics, you know, Carly, you know, this is the label that they utilize. I just wanted to show this out show you this because we actually service 109 academic Carly libraries. You know, we're actually contractually obligated to service theirs. We do it on a cost recovery basis. So we receive like a little over $747,000, you know, on annually to provide the service. And I'll show you that on a slide coming up on how we actually do that. Okay, this is just primarily, this is also on our delivery webpage. This is, and I just wanted to primarily focus on just the library lookup. You know, library lookup is L2, you know, where the libraries, we encourage the libraries to definitely go to our delivery webpage because all of the information that they need is already there. So if they're looking for a route code, the route number, you know, the service day that a library is receiving or information on the library, they can go right to L2 and get all that information. So I wanted to point that out, and I encourage everyone to actually go to the delivery webpage and just browse through it because there's a lot of fascinating, good stuff out there, you know. A little over a year or so ago, we transitioned from paper to collecting our data electronically. This has been a godsend for us, primarily because we used to have a lot of data, but it was always in boxes. So we really couldn't utilize the information. But now that we've got the tablets, it's a wonderful process because now everything that I collect, even stuff like my vehicle pre-trip inspection form, incident reports, all of the library data. So all the data that's for the driver, so it's at their fingertips. You know, we also capture all of the information such as how many containers did I drop off? How many containers did I retrieve? You know, all of that information is here. Now we have a report writer that I can get reports off of any field that is captured within that tablet. So it puts us on another level where, you know, where we weren't before. So I'm very appreciative of that. I apologize, I'm talking fast, but I know my 10 minutes was up a long time ago. So, okay, the delivery count, you know, which is required 4 times a year. You know, just once per quarter. That's all. They count all of the material that's in their blue container. You know, once they have that data, and this is Monday through Friday, just for 1 week, once a quarter, you know, they would then enter that information right into our computer system. You know, it's important, and I have to make sure we say this, that, you know, it's important to actually do the physical count and not use the totals for your ILS because of the fact that there's discrepancies between the two. It's primarily a timing issue from when I pick up versus when, you know, you actually put the information in. So because of the fact that libraries are putting this directly into our system, we actually do an audit of 25% of the bins, you know, each count period, just so that we can get a feel, just to make sure that are these totals accurate or not. So, great. Okay, this is our volume from FY 2024. You know, we collected and processed 7.9 million items. We do it 4 times a year, like I said, once a quarter, and then you can see it's broken down by all of the different service centers. And what's interesting about this is we've actually had an increase of 272,000 items, or 3.5%. We went up in volume from FY '23 to FY '24. So that's a beautiful thing. So that's always good to know that the books are moving. We completed 117,000 stops throughout the year, 1.1 million miles we've driven.
Wow.
That, we've driven around the world 47 times. But that 1.1 million miles that we drive annually. And that does fluctuate periodically, but not that often, because our routes really change. As I mentioned, 7.9 million items we process, and that's between our in-house and between Rails and CTL. That's the volume between both of those service centers, and our territory is 27,000 miles. So we're half of the state of Illinois. Our sister company is the other 27,000 miles. We do this with a staff of 44 people, 4 managers and 40 drivers and sorters. 2023, we used $4 million to actually provide all of that service, and which translated into like 49 cents an item. So as I mentioned earlier, concerning where our hubs are located, you can see where we're in the blue at the top there. Those blue stars are the Rails hub, and how for us to the red dot is our Heartland, Champaign, Illinois location, where we exchange material every night in the middle of the night. That's how we turn the work around within the state within 24 hours, because after everything is processed throughout the days, it's put on a truck, it's driven to Champaign. All of the routes are exchanging material between the other hubs, and then we turn right back around, drive back to those hubs, process that work, and then so it's available the next morning to go out. So that's actually how we actually handle that transfer of material within the state. We also, just to assist training library staff, because we have turnover, libraries have turnover, everyone has turnover. We've actually prepared 5 different videos that can be used to assist libraries in training their staff. These are no more than 2 or 3 minutes. We didn't want to bore people to death, so it's very, very simple, easy videos. And the first one you can see is preparing material for delivery. And also the delivery support, which is help desk, member lookup, which is L2, ordering labels, and then also how to populate the label. So it's, these are very easy, very quick videos that can help the library when they're training new staff. It definitely helps out in the long run. Wanted to just briefly talk about our outsourced vendor, Continental Transport Logistics. They're located in North Lake, Illinois. There's a video on our webpage that you can look at, and you can actually see their operation. You can actually see how they actually process their materials as well. And like I mentioned earlier, they're primarily servicing the legacy of Burr Ridge and Wheeling service areas, and they service 131 of the locations. But definitely check out the video when you do have a quick moment. A couple of things I just wanted to just mention, some of the challenges and moving forward, things that we're looking forward to. Fluctuating costs of fuel, like Sharon mentioned earlier, that's so unpredictable. We don't know. You can read all of the reports in the world, but never really get an understanding of what that figure should be. Staffing, rent. We've gone from 20% increases to 40% increases on rent. So that's very unusual. And then salaries, because we have to be competitive. We have to be. So those are some of the things that we always have to challenge, on an annual basis. And then just hiring good staff and then being able to retain it. One of the things that we would like to do is simplify the data collection some type of way, that we can possibly, and don't quote me on this, but if we can come up with things to where we can eliminate the delivery counts, that's a win-win. But we're still investigating that. That's a long way off. And then, like I said earlier, the statewide collaboration with working with Carly and Heartland, the Illinois State Library. I'm big on sharing information, that if there's something that we can provide to you or you can provide to us, why reinvent the wheel? So the next one is just all of my resources, and I'll open it up for any questions, and my apologies for me speed reading, but I just wanted to try and get through as quick as possible with all the interruptions that we had.
Mark, I just had a quick question as the academic library rep. Do you have a feeling of like what percentage of this work is for academic libraries, or how many you do for academic libraries through ILDS every year?
I actually have that information. I can get back to you though.
Great, that'd be
Because,
great.
yeah, we're looking at, and please don't quote me, I think it's about 400,000 items that I think we're moving, for Carly on an annual basis. I would have to go back and pull up the report.
I think one thing to keep in mind, because we've been having these conversations about the ILDS contract, is that comparative to the other materials that are moving through the system, academic, physical delivery has fallen quite a bit since the pandemic. So it seems that there's a lot more happening electronically than necessarily the physical delivery, but there's still a significant amount of material that moves through physical
Right.
delivery for ILDS.
And it's a little different too. Let me just share this because the fact that I process items where Carly processes bags. So I could share, it's a third. It's a third of what we used to process. What we used to move for Carly, it's a third.
Whereas the rest of the materials have pretty much
Have gone up.
recovered since the
Yeah.
pandemic, or other types of libraries, I should say.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Can I just take a moment just to say, I think Mark shared a lot of information, but I think you can all see that it is a logistics puzzle that is an incredible thing to have to organize and work through. So I just want you all to know that there's so much that goes into every aspect of these efficiencies. It's more than half of our staff here at Rails is devoted to delivery. It's a hugely important service to our members. So thank you for the presentation, but I just want to call that out because they do a lot.
If I could just add as well, that we talked with our colleagues in other states. We, in many ways, I think are the envy of many states in terms of how quickly efficient. Maybe I'll just stop talking. It's all to say Mark and his team are doing a great job. Thank you.
So part of what I was gonna mention is obviously it takes a lot to run it. Coordination, the communication, maintenance, waiting on new vehicles, working with Sharon to make sure is everything paid for so that we continue. Obviously, even my library's been affected where we had one of the trucks in my parking lot for a few hours just to get it going. So it's just nice that we're finally seeing some progress in regards to that. Obviously, I think we can all agree the Rails board appreciates all the hard work you and your team does daily so that all members can receive their materials within a reasonable time. 24 hours is crazy, so that's amazing. But in all honesty, it's just phenomenal. It's great to see that everything's working. And obviously, again, that doesn't even account personnel. There's so many aspects of your job that we don't get to see. So we are just gracious to see that, at this moment, what we can see is progress. Thank you so much. And continuous, it's ongoing, so thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions or comments, let's move on to Mandy for the report from the State Library.
There we go. All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm going to start off with some financials. Secretary Giannoulias just announced $28 million in grant awards. That includes $18 million for the library systems, nearly 5.8 for literacy grants. And we did $500,000 for Project Next Generation this year. And of course, those grants go to supporting technology-focused programs with mentoring at public libraries for at-risk youth. We have more than $350,000 this year for radio information services, and those go to support content for individuals who cannot read standard print. And we did $50,000 this year to support efforts for veterans' homes libraries. So we're very grateful for Secretary Giannoulias for all the great work he's been doing since he got into office and supporting libraries. He's a really big library advocate. So in grant news, public libraries received notification this week about the availability of construction grants coming up. School district library grant applications are still coming in with a deadline of October 15th. These awards amount to about 88.5 cents per student, and that's with a minimum award of $850. And then right as those applications close, it opens up for the public library per capita grants. The deadline to apply for those and to submit expenditure reports is January 30th, 2025. And of course, all applicants are required to submit certification of compliance with Public Act 103-100 regarding not banning books, which is continues to be an effort for the secretary in his new role as state librarian. And as Monica mentioned, we had ISLAC yesterday here at the State Library. We received a brief presentation from Susanna Jones. She is our EBSCO database package consultant. To date, she has over 600 public and school librarians have attended trainings. She's done at least 5 virtual trainings and she's got a couple more planned. And we're already getting obviously some really positive feedback about this program and the money that is being saved on databases for organizations. There, as Monica mentioned as well, there was also a lot of discussion about grant equity. There are going to be potential increases in both construction grants as well as equalization grants. And equalization grants, if you don't know, they kind of piggyback onto public library per capita grants. So public library per capitas are available to all public libraries. Equalization grants are specific towards libraries with a low tax base. And with an increase in that funding, it's going to expand that program to a lot more public libraries who could really use that funding. So we're excited about that. As far as construction is concerned, there will likely be some collective strategizing on how to create a more level playing field for the application process for those grants. Because obviously there's, you know, a little bit of an imbalance as far as, you know, grant writing abilities for different organizations. And so, you know, it's been brought to our attention that, you know, there may need to be some help in that area. So we're all going to be thinking about that in the coming months. And let's see. Oh, so the Secretary of State is in the process of modernization, which is desperately needed. We're starting with a complete overhaul of the website, and this is not just for the library, it's Secretary of State wide. But here, library staff has been working diligently to create the most up-to-date information. As you may know, a lot of our information is old on our website. So we're very, very excited that we're finally going to get accurate due dates and things like that. And a part of that modernization process is also going to hopefully bring an online grants management system to the state library, which is something we have been desperately wanting and needing for a very long time. This will, of course, streamline not only the application process, but the reporting process. It'll make it easier for us to be monitoring grants. And it kind of ties in with that equity component as well. You know, we heard some really interesting stories yesterday about, you know, libraries having to reserve a very old computer just to have access to our antiquated PDF system, and it can make the application process difficult for a lot of people. So we're very, very excited about that. Hopefully in the coming months, we'll have some more news about that. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks as always for making some time for us to give you updates.
Thank you, Mandy, and looking forward to that modernization. Also looking forward to seeing the Illinois State Library being represented at the ILA conference. So thank you again. Okay, next up is new business and Monica with the annual report. Monica, you have the floor.
Thank you, Renee. So many of you have been through this process before. Part of our requirement for our grant funding that we received through the Illinois State Library, and thanks again, I know Mandy just mentioned the grant that we received through Secretary Janulius and the Illinois State Library for that grant, but part of what we have to do is provide them with a report that really goes through a lot of the activity from the previous year. And so what you have received is that report. While that is a grant requirement, a lot of work goes into this process. So I imagine you can see this is touched by pretty much all of the areas of administration within Rails. There is a lot that happens here, but it's really also an exciting opportunity to take a look back at the year before and see how much has been accomplished. In the narrative, all of the information is organized by our strategic plan goals. So you can also see how some of this, or how this material is moving towards the goals that we have set as an organization. So I'm not gonna go through this because it would be way too much to detail, but I did want to open it up in case there were questions, comments, anything anyone wanted to ask or note about the annual report that you received in your packet.
Gave it an extra minute there. All right.
Thank you to everyone for your hard work in putting this together. Yes,
Rails does a lot.
yes.
Putting that all on paper has to take a lot of time.
All right, thank you, Amanda and Julie. If there are no further questions or comments, may I have a motion for approval of the narrative report as part of the Rails fiscal year 24 or the annual report?
So moved, Jennifer?
Second, Gwen?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Just a reminder, this also is being submitted to the state library. My apologies on that one. All right, exciting. Let's move on to Mark and Joe with the disposal of surplus inventory.
We've identified 57 items spread out between 4 different service centers that we no longer have a use for. Majority of them are old vehicles. So the last time we did an auction was in 2018. So I think it's definitely time for us to start to get rid of some of these things that's been on our lots for quite some time. So I guess there's just any questions. The memo's in your package. Are there any questions or comments or anything like that that I can answer concerning the inventory or anything else, the memo?
And I would just reiterate, we're following a process that's really outlined both in Rails policy as well as what is found in the Library System Act, which is not dissimilar really to what you will find in like the Public Library District Act when it comes to some disposal of surplus material. And as Mark said, we followed much the same process in 2018. If you know anyone that wants a 2006 GMC kind of line with 350,000 miles, it's going to be up for auction next month.
Yes.
Is that our record, 350,000 miles?
I don't know, Mark,
No.
what's probably not.
That's our record.
It's about 380. 380,000 miles, yeah. It's a good run as long as it's facing downhill.
All right, thank you, Mark and Joe. If there are no questions or comments, may I have a motion to approve the disposal of surplus inventory as presented?
So, Alex.
Second, Karen.
Alex and Karen, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Again, and you guys are popular. Again, we have Joe and Mark talk about the CTL delivery contract. Mark, you just go ahead.
I'm gonna give this
You're gonna
one
let
a
me
go.
have it, Rich.
Yeah.
All right, then go.
Lots of delivery stuff today. So in your packet, you'll find a memo regarding our contract renewal with CTL. So we just wanted to take the opportunity to share just a bit of information with you and welcome any feedback or comments. So you just heard Mark talk about our delivery operation. And as a reminder, CTL is that company we use to outsource just a portion of our delivery operation. And again, as he said, we're talking about the area primarily located portions of Cook, Lake, DuPage counties, again, primarily Swan, CCS libraries. With our contract up for renewal this fall, we were given a number of different renewal options from CTL for us to consider. And after looking at these options over the summer from both a financial and an operational perspective, we've determined the best option is something of a hybrid approach where sorting for these routes would be done by delivery staff out of our Bolingbrook Service Center. And then the actual delivery continued to be executed by CTL. So the primary change in this really being an operational one in which Rails staff would be taking over the sorting responsibilities from CTL, who had been doing that sorting as part of our service agreement up to this. We feel confident that this change will really benefit Rails by giving us greater operational control and being able to leverage some of the sorting efficiencies that we feel that we possess in-house. And we think that this will likely result in fewer sorting errors than what we have historically seen on those CTL routes. And I referenced in the memo a study that was done a few years ago that sort of referenced that kind of data. And when we look at the projected annual increase that we get from CTL on our contract, we also see the potential for some not insignificant cost savings with this option as well. And importantly, and maybe most importantly, none of this is going to change anything for our members, right? They're going to be seeing the same level of delivery service that they've been accustomed to. And if there's any change, maybe it's fewer sorting errors, fewer misrouted items that they'll be seeing. So because of the increase that we're going to take on in terms of our sorting volume, it is going to mean that we'll be looking to hire 3 additional sorters for that Bolingbrook operation. We will also need additional space to accommodate the increased sorting volume and work that we need to do. And honestly, probably a year or two ago, we wouldn't have had the opportunity or even the ability to do this because we needed more space, but we sort of lucked out in that you heard Mark say we have Suite A, B, and C at our Bolingbrook location. Suite D was vacated by the previous tenant. It's right there next to our operation as it is, and that is kind of the footprint that we would need to be able to do the sorting, and it's already kind of right there for us. But again, even with the additional staff that we're talking about and the acquisition of the Suite D in terms of the rental, it is still going to be offset and then some by the reduced costs with our contract from CTL. So we really do just see this as an advantageous option for us. I guess I'll just stop and take the opportunity to commend both Sharon Swanson there in Burr Ridge, obviously Mark Hatch here in Bloomington today, who did so much work in looking at this from both the financial, operational, and logistical perspectives to make sure we landed on the best option for Rails and ultimately for our members. So I will stop there. Obviously myself, Mark, Sharon, if there are any questions that anybody got. Karen.
How does CTI or CTL, do they know about this new, I mean, are they gonna like, because they're angry, are they gonna maybe jack up the prices of their?
Yeah, it's a great question. They actually gave us, I mean, we requested and they gave us what, 7 different options. And so this was among them, the sort of thing. So they are aware.
I have a question. Has it ever been discussed about potentially buying a location in Bolingbrook as opposed to renting? I hesitated to even ask it because I know, just owning the facility versus renting, and there's flexibility with the renting, but with the rent being what it is, I don't know if that's going to go down in future years, but has that been discussed at all?
I'm gonna grab this one. This is a great question, Catherine. And it is one that while we have not discussed it much in the recent past because of changes and outsourcing, in these discussions that we had with Sharon, Mark, and Joe, and really looking at the outlay for how much we have paid in rent over the last 10 years, it is something to potentially consider. I think we have to be really thoughtful about what the future looks like and thinking about what those spaces look like. But it is something that I think we might not have considered 3 years ago that I think we are going to think more carefully about now.
Thank you, Catherine.
All right, thank you, Mark and Joe. If there are no further questions or comments.
I do have a question. So is this a 5-year contract then?
No,
Long as the
with
contract goes
CTL,
forward?
we haven't determined that yet, as far as what the renewal is gonna be. Most likely it'll be a 2-year contract.
Okay.
It's like, because that's what our standard has always been, 2 years. But when you're talking about, are you talking about within CTL or are you talking about the lease?
No, with
Suite D?
CTL.
That's usually been a 2-year contract.
We're gonna go to the next item on the agenda. We're gonna go to the next item. on the- I know, I'm trying. We're gonna go to the next item of the agenda, new members. Jessica, you are up.
Hello all, we have a request to join Rails from Kinnickinnick CCSD 131, a public school district serving 4 schools in grades K through 8. I shared the benefits of Rails membership and Kinnickinnick is excited to join. I met with the superintendent, Kelly Friedland, and the school librarian, Katrina Kowalski, about the district libraries, Rails membership, and they're interested in the Protector grant and other school library grants. They would make a really great Rails member and they will make a great addition to our school library members. They also attended the Illinois School Library Workers, a lot of them, so that's really great too. Do you have any questions for me as it's?
I move that we accept Kinnick School District as a new member, mostly because I like saying that name. But also, but they're a school.
Fine with that. Second, Julie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. She's speaking to us. All right. Next item on the agenda is support of Carly's statement on the importance of librarians in academic libraries. Monica, you have the floor.
Thank you, Renee. So at our August meeting, we did discuss the recent situation at Western Illinois University, as well as the fact that Carly was going to lead the force on making sure that there was a statement about the importance of academic libraries that then could be looked at by other partner organizations throughout Illinois. In our conversations with Carly, the Illinois Library Association, Heartland, and ISLE, we discussed the fact that we think a statement is much stronger when we have one statement that's agreed upon by all of our partner organizations. We did bring this to the board advocacy committee at their September 19th meeting. I know Monica referenced this meeting that we had last week, which was quite a good meeting, and there was quite a good discussion at that committee around the support of this. Monica, anything you would add about the discussion or anything from the advocacy committee before we bring this to the full board?
No, I feel like everyone agreed with the strength in numbers. The more state library organizations in our state that will add our voices to a piece of advocacy, the better. I also want to say that I serve on the ISLE board, and this Carly statement is before our board as well. So we hope to keep amplifying the plight of our academic colleagues.
Thanks, Monica. I know in addition to ISLE that Monica mentioned, this will also be considered in the future by Heartland. It has already been endorsed by NILROC, which is an organization that mostly focuses on community college libraries. And I know it has also been considered by the Illinois Library Association. Cindy's here with us. Cindy, anything you'd add?
The board supported it completely last Thursday, and it went out in the newsletter yesterday.
So that's the information that we have about this. The board advocacy committee did vote to recommend that the Rails board endorse the statement. And so I am now offering the floor to you for discussion and potential endorsement.
All right, thank you, Monica. There are no further questions or comments, but you do have time. There you go.
Well, as an academic library representative, I'd like to say it's great for us to discuss this, and I'm sure academic libraries really appreciate and support from Rails. It seems like this is a thoughtful statement that the people from Carly and the Carly board put together, really supporting what academic libraries do every day.
May I have a motion for the approval to support the Carly statement on the importance of librarians in academic libraries?
So moved, Karen.
Karen, seconded.
Second.
Right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, the next item on the agenda is board development. This is the visit I always look forward to every year. Let me just tell you, we are privileged here to have Cindy Robinson, the Executive Director of the Illinois Library Association. Cindy?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Monica and Renee. So as I was sitting here today, I was like looking around the room and realizing that so many people here have been on the board. Joe, Julie, both were treasurers. Julie doesn't believe it. And so many of you have been on the conference committee, and which was what I mostly did for most of the time I was at ILA. So it's so good to see so many friends. Like, you know, there's so many ways to be leaders in Illinois, and we're so fortunate in so many ways that we know that other states don't have. So thank you for all of the work that you do. We really appreciate that. I'm just gonna give you like a little, like, here's what's going on with ILA. I'm sure you know that conference is coming up in like 10 days or so, which we can't really believe, but it is true. As you probably have heard, Nick Offerman was going to be with us in person, but he has to go to, I don't know where he was going. He has to go somewhere else and make a movie. And that was better than being in Peoria. I don't understand that. So you probably saw the call that we put out to have members send videos with their questions for Nick. And it's amazing. It's really great. The questions are great. He's perfect. And so the opening session will actually be a recording of the conversation. But I've seen part of it, and it's going to be great. So if you're coming to the conference, make sure you're there in time for that. And then our president's program will be Michael Threets, who of course everybody loves Michael. So we're very excited to have him at the conference, and we have a lot of events going on. We're going to have a drag bingo for Julie. And we'll have trivia. So hopefully we'll see many of you in Peoria. One of the things that Monica asked me to talk about was our strategic plan, which was just passed in May. And it's much more simple than our previous strategic plan. But I think it still does everything that we need. So our strategies and goals are in the document that I shared with you. We have 3 strategies. We have advocacy, political advocacy, and legislative collaboration. We have member engagement, which is focusing on DEI, education, and membership for our members. And then the third strategy is to build ILA staff and to work towards diversifying I can't talk today. Sorry, guys. We will act to pursue the variety of revenue streams. So it's, you know, it's straightforward. It is focused on our advocacy, which is the center of all of our work, and serving our members and providing more opportunities for our members, and also working at developing our staff as well. Anyone has any questions? Happy to answer them, but so the next thing I want to talk about is the ILA Public Policy Committee. Many of you maybe have been on it at some point. We have 12 members of
of PPC. And we have ex officio members from Rails, IHLS, IL, Carly, the State Library, and the chair of the ILA Intellectual Freedom Committee. So they don't get a vote, but they are able to, they can participate in the conversation and bring ideas and legislation to the committee. We also have Derek Blada as our lobbyist, who is so amazing, and we could never get anything done without him. The committee meets the first Monday of every month, mostly. We moved up our meeting from October 7th to this coming Monday because of the conference. Members of ILA are welcome to attend. Just let me know and I can send you the link if you have any questions or just want to see how PPC runs. We would be happy to have you join us. So what PPC does is works on legislation, and you'll start seeing in the spring calls for like, hey, what ideas do you have? What could we do in Springfield to make things better for libraries? So that starts in the spring, and then over the summer, PPC starts to review the proposals that have come through and talk about them and figure out like, are these the ones we want to pursue? Are there some things that maybe isn't quite ready for legislation, but we could, do work on other things that might not be ready for a legislative response. And the committee puts together their agenda and they send it to the executive board at their September meeting, which was last week. And they vote yes or no on the legislation, and the board voted to add 2 items to our legislative agenda for this year. And I sent the documents with you. So if you want to read more information, there'll be more about it. And there'll be more information coming as we move along. One is compensation reporting requirements, which is a case of dealing with time and that money isn't as valuable as it used to be, right? So libraries that have to report staff compensation packages is set at $75,000, which is like, that's almost everybody you hire, right? So we are going to ask for the requirement to be raised to between $100,000 and $150,000. And that will be less work for libraries. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Libraries Connected. It is focusing on broadband. And we have the proposal that you have from Anne and Troy and Kate Hall is amazing. So take a look at that if you have any interest in broadband. Those will be our 2 focuses for the coming year. And then we are still focusing on a few things from, I was like last year, but it's not really last year, it's still this year. So the 2024 session ended in the spring, but there may or may not be a veto session in November. Seems like maybe there's not going to be one, but there's always a very short session before the 2024 year will be officially over, and that will be before the next session begins. So there's usually a week or 2 where we can get things can get passed that maybe didn't happen in the spring. And you may remember in the spring, like not a lot happened. So one of the things that did get passed was the treasure bond for libraries, which Monica talked about. That was incredible. So that, that was no problem right through. We were very excited about the raising the bidding threshold for libraries from $25,000 to 35. And we were like, well, this is great. This makes sense. Of course, this is, inflation is happening and we need to raise this. Well, the iron workers didn't agree. So that was interesting. We put together a document with, explaining all of the library buildings and updates and everything we could find that to show them like, this is not going to impact you at all. Like $35,000, that's, nothing that was on this list was $100,000. And many were like in the millions. So we are hoping that we can work with our friends at the iron workers to see if we can put this legislation through the end of the year. So that would be great for libraries. So we'll see. And this is why it's very valuable to have Derek working with us because he knows what to do. We are also still focusing on access to electronic materials for libraries. As you know, electronic materials are very expensive and our patrons want more of them. And it's hard to explain why you're like the, 800th person in line for one book. We started this, working on this legislation, knowing it would take many years, and there are other states that are working on this. And so little by little, we're trying to get more information. Monica has been helping us with some information that might be helpful. So we'll have more of that coming on later. But right now, we're just still trying to figure out like what would be a success with this legislation. And then the last thing is not one of our proposals, but the threats to libraries and library staff. We have been monitoring that since it was introduced, and it hasn't really moved yet. So we're just keeping an eye on that. So that's where we are in terms of legislation. And you hopefully know that the meetups will be starting to, well, you can register now. We have 7 locations across the state. And for Rails, we have our southern suburban, western suburban, north suburban, central Illinois, and northwestern Illinois. So hopefully we'll get a really good response. Last year was our first time back in person since 2020, and it was really wonderful. Moving from February to December was really great because legislators didn't have to be in like 20 different places in one day. They stayed later, they were taking pictures, they were talking with everyone. And the attendance, both legislators and attendees were really close to the 2020 members were. But one place was even way higher than the previous. So we're really excited to come back to our meetups. And if you have any questions or anything, just reach out to us and we're happy to help.
I just want to reiterate for the Rails board members that if you have interest in attending these legislative meetups, get in contact with Emily or myself. We would love to have you representing your libraries and Rails and speaking to these legislators about these issues. So definitely take a look at the dates and times and see what might work for you.
Well, I'd just like to add, they are very fun and interesting, and I've been a coordinator of different ones, and now doing the one that is it the Northwest Illinois one, which is gonna be actually in my town, which is exciting, at the country club, which I've never been to, so that will be very fun to go to.
Thank you, Gwen.
I think it's a great thing to do.
Everybody said yes when I asked them if they would do it again. So I was so happy when they said yes.
I'm just saying that for your trustees, please try to get them to go. The legislators love to talk to trustees, their fellow elected and appointed officials. And 3 of my trustees went last year. All 3 are going again this year, plus the new guy. So get your trustees there. It's really worth it.
All right, thank you, Cindy, for the updates and sharing the main goals and the highlighted strategic plan. Forward to all the speakers at the conference. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, board member reports. At this time, board members are invited to share any news and updates from their own library or area. This is the fun part.
I am thrilled to host a visiting author. On October 15th, we are having a graphic novelist named Huda Fahmy. She's coming to our high school in Vernon Hills, and I can tell she's going to be a hoot and a half because of the titles that she gives. She has 2 books based upon her life, and she uses a play on her own name. So the first book is called Who the F Are You? Which I tell you will always get a teenager's attention. And her follow-up is Who the F Cares? And she is, we're giving away free copies of her books in a fun way. I have bought them out of library money and will hide them around our high school. And it has a little cover sheet on it explaining to the students that this is your free book. You can keep it and bring it to have the author sign. And the flyer says, who the F knows where the books are? So I might, all of my daily bulletin announcements next week may hurt the principal's ears, but if it gets the high school students to listen and get excited, then there we go, it's worked. So we're excited about our author visit.
Monica, thank you so much for sharing that. I gotta check out the books.
Yes, she's very funny.
Does anyone else have anything to add?
Just
Yes, I do. I'm very excited about the upcoming ILA Retirees Forum that's coming closer to fruition. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you for starting it.
We're gonna talk more about it in Peoria at ILA, and then I'll be able to share a little bit more once we discuss the different aspects, different avenues that we will present to ILA membership. Encourage you to join ILA and to join the Retirees Forum, and you don't have to be retired to join the ILA Forum. And it's wonderful. Speaking from my own experience, I thought when I retired, but you know what? I miss my friends. I miss being in the library. I volunteer. I mean, it's just, Rails has brought so much more of a panorama of different opportunities, as well as ILA when I was director at large. So over the years with CODLS and the different organizations, it's been wonderful. And working both at a public and an academic and Caterpillar. It's just been wonderful. It's given me different views and different lens for each library, specialized library. Thank you.
At Downers Grove Library, our student library card program with District 58, based on the Cards for Kids expansion. We got our last batch of data from the registrations. We got 96% of students in District 58 registered for library cards.
I can't beat that. That's nice. That's 96% is a lot. Where do I go? All right, next is a quick recap. Thanks for sharing again. Monica, you're still in my mind in regards to those books. I really want to check them out, and I really don't want to make a pun because I don't want to get in trouble. All right, so our next board meeting will be held on Friday, October 25th, 2024. The agenda will include an overview of the Rails deal and discounts from Layla Heath and Julie Tamperdorf from the law firm of Ansel Blake. We'll talk about the legal practices for boards around social media. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about next month's meeting? Great. If there are no further comments or questions, thank you again for your attendance today. I hope you have a well-deserved, safe and great weekend with your friends and family. I also hope to see everyone at ILA conference. I hear Dan will be offering a carpool service. Thanks, Dan.
Is that true?
I gotta chuckle on the Zoom. Thank you. I adjourn this meeting at 2:48 PM.